All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Be That Guy podcast. My name is DJ Ligori, and we are on episode 190 something. I honestly don't even really know. It's been a long week for me, to be completely honest, and we're actually on Tuesday. We're on Tuesday. Got a lot of things going on in my life right now. A lot of ups, a lot of downs. But life is good, all right? And I think sometimes I put a lot of pressure on myself to have these incredible episodes and create this incredible content. Maybe I can just relax and breathe a little bit and just kind of talk from my heart on some of these. I want to make an episode today just on priorities. And the reason that I want to do this is because one of my buddies, he put this awesome post up a couple weeks ago about priorities. And I always think about priorities as priority management versus time management, because a lot of people are like, oh, I need to work on my time management. And I always think about, like, time management is not a real thing. It's kind of like weather management. You can't manage the time, yet you can manage the priorities that you make a part of that time. And so typically wherever your time and your money goes is what you're prioritizing. And I talk to a lot of guys who are 18 and up, and I can tell what their priorities are based upon where their time goes, whether it is to video games, whether it is to hanging out with friends who are maybe hurting that person or not necessarily propelling that guy to be better. We can figure out where our priorities are based upon where our time goes. And so today's episode is, I want to challenge your priorities a little bit as a guy. And if you're a parent, I want to share this idea with you so that you can understand where your son's priorities are and allow him to see that too. And I think a really important thing about what I'm going to talk about today is something I actually learned in the book. Actually, let me see if I can get this. Oh, I got it. The Let Them Theory, all right, by Mel Robbins. About 3/4 of the way through, great book, and it's a super popular book right now. But the chapter that I'm on right now, Mel Robbins is talking about how we can't change anybody, right? We have to actually allow them to see why they might want to change. And she uses the strategy of motivational interviewing, allowing people to see why they might want to change. What's the reason for changing? And so we can't change anybody. So as parents, and one thing I want to preface this with, I want to be careful that, like, I never give like parental advice, because one, I'm not a parent, and two, I have zero right to do that. All right. The only advice or coaching that I give on these podcasts are merely just things that I've learned, things that I've actually done or coached guys through, and I will never ever speak out of turn in that. And that's something that I'm very passionate about, is not feeling like an imposter talking about things that I don't believe that I have the right to talk about. So I will only talk about how to build better habits. I will only talk about me and the things that I've changed and the reasons that I've personally changed when I was in my early 20s that might inspire a guy who's in his early 20s to want to change, or might inspire a parent to want to share with their son what I share on this podcast that might inspire them to want to change. All right, so I just want to be respectful to that and let you guys know that I'm obviously aware of that, and I don't want to come off as like, hey, do this to save your son. The only things I'm sharing is just things that I've experienced with all of the guys that I've worked with, I've had the honor of working with. All right, so today what I want to do is I want to challenge every 18-year-old guy who's listening to this who feels like they could do more, all right? And I think this is an important piece. You have to, as a young man, believe that you have more in the tank. If you think you're like completely fine and you're complacent with living at your parents' house or working a job that isn't really fulfilling to you, and you're just kind of like, I'm good, then be that guy, and this whole podcast and everything that I stand for is not for you. And you can unsubscribe from me, unfollow me from everything, because really what I'm talking to are the guys who want to be that 1% guy, the guy who wants to be the most disciplined guy in his friend group, the guy who wants to be that confident guy in the social setting who can talk to anybody, whether it's a man or a woman, and he can adapt to any environment. Those are really the guys who I'm talking to. Be that guy is about mastering the hard and soft skills of life. The hard skills of discipline, confidence, and consistency, and actually tracking habits, following through on those commitments, and the soft skills of empathy, kindness, love, curiosity. Those are the main things that we teach guys in our level 1 and level 2 programs. Level 1 is for habits and the hard skills. Level 2 is for emotional intelligence and the soft skills. And so those are really the guys who I'm speaking to, and the parents of those guys that I'm speaking to, because a lot of guys I'm finding are really comfortable with where they're at right now. And is that a problem? I mean, if they're comfortable with where they're at, then have them just stay with right where they are, right? These are for the guys who really want to change, all right? So if you are one of those guys, listen up, because what I want to do is I want to give you a little perspective on priorities first, and then I want to give you 25 different things that you can actually do to start shifting your priorities, which is going to make you feel more meaningful. And in a super, super simple way, you're just going to like yourself more, right? You're going to like put yourself out there a little bit more. You're going to do harder things. You're going to end up respecting yourself more, which I think is a really important thing, because if you respect yourself more, I think you're just going to have a better life. I think you're just going to enjoy life more, and the people that you get to hang out with and the times when you are alone, you're actually just going to like yourself more, which I think is a really cool thing. I've gone in areas of my life where I haven't really liked myself, and now I've gotten to a point where like I'm really okay with who I am. Like I really appreciate what I see in the mirror, and I want to help other guys kind of get to that point of their lives. And you can totally do this. And so I think a lot of guys might think that their priorities right now don't really matter that much, right? If they are playing a ton of video games, if they do feel complacent, if they are vaping all the time, have a really poor diet, aren't really exercising or pushing themselves, I think a lot of times we can just think like in short-term spurts of like, this doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't matter if I play an hour of video games here. It doesn't matter if I eat McDonald's or skip this workout. Yet the priorities that you're practicing today are going to lead to what your future looks like. So your priorities are ultimately going to shape your future, just like your habits are going to shape your future, because ultimately your priorities are the things that you're giving your time to, and they're probably some things that you're developing habits in doing, and hopefully those habits and those priorities are positive, meaning they are helping you with health, maybe they're making you money, maybe they're making you smarter, and they're pushing you in a positive direction towards something meaningful and of service to the world and others. All right. Now, if you're not doing those things, then maybe it's time to make a little bit of an adjustment. Maybe it's time to ask yourself, am I ready to actually take myself a little bit more seriously? I was talking to a young man today who said he wasn't ready to level up. He wasn't ready to take himself seriously. And that's okay. Like I said, then this type of work is probably not for that individual and for young men who are also in that regard. Yet for the guys who are like, you know what, I'm ready to kind of move in the right direction. I'm ready to make some changes here. I want you guys to think about these. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rip through some 25 priorities. All right. Parents, this is a great list for you to share with your son to, right? Remember Mel Robbins, right? We can't change your sons. We can't change anybody, yet we can give them the information to essentially look at it and make an educated decision for themselves. All right. So here's a list of 25 things that I would personally do if I was in my early 20s, and some of these I actually still am doing, and a reason why I recommend you would actually do them. All right. First one, take a boxing or jiu-jitsu class. I recently started boxing 2 years ago, and I can say it is the number one thing that helps me feel more confident. As men, there's nothing better than feeling that you can just protect yourself and your possible wife or girlfriend if something happens to go down. All right. Take a boxing or a jiu-jitsu class or some sort of combat class. It will completely change your confidence. Second thing, do a push-up or pull-up routine. All right, push-ups and pull-ups, you don't really need a lot. And it's super simple to track. I personally track right now, I do 38 push-ups a day on top of my typical workout. After every single one of my workouts, I do 38 push-ups and I do 100 crunches right now. I like to call this the undesirable. It's the thing that I really do not want to do after I'm absolutely exhausted after a workout, yet I know that the majority of people, 99% of guys, are probably not going to do it. That's where the 1% operate. All right? So start a push-up and a pull-up routine. Number 3, read about a topic that you like. I'm reading, as I mentioned, the let them theory. I really enjoy the idea of not letting other people piss me off, which frankly, I haven't really been doing a good job of. So I could probably reread that and get some more education from Miss Robbins over there. Yet I'm trying to do a better job of that, right? I'm trying to educate myself and change myself constantly every day. So read about a topic that you like. Number 4, learn how to cook 5 high-protein meals. I've made a lot of videos about this, about one of the cheat codes that I have found is being able to cook, and cook simple things: steak, chicken, ground beef, ground turkey, eggs, bacon. I think it's super important to know how to cook as a guy, because then you avoid Uber Eats, the DoorDash, the conveniency, and then you actually go out and buy groceries and then you prepare your meal. Teaches you about doing a hard thing, right? It also makes you respect convenience. I think it makes you a better man. All right. So learn how to cook 5 high protein meals. Number 5, write letters. All right, this is a really cool one. So each guy who joins our Be That Guy habit program or our Be That Guy club, what they end up getting is they actually get a little letter from me. It's on like a note card, and I basically, tell them thank you. Really looking forward to kind of working together. And so I write letters to all of these guys, and I've written letters in the past to individuals who have had an impact on me, and they have responded back to these letters via text, via phone, email, and they are like so grateful for it. So that's one of the things, like I would write a letter like once a week to like somebody who's like really important to me, as something cool to kind of like track. Number 6, walk and podcast. One of the guys that I'm actually working with right now, he wanted to start developing a little bit of a morning routine. And so right now we're having him do a walk and a podcast each morning. And I actually sent him the Be That Guy podcast to listen to. All right. 1, it's a great way to start your day, get up, get some fresh air. 2, listen to a podcast, learn something educational, learn a new skill. All right, number 7, wake up early and cold shower. I've talked a lot about this. I personally do cold plunges every once in a while. I haven't been able to do them just because of my leg, but actually last weekend I did a cold plunge here in Tampa. Absolutely awesome. Shout out cold plunge coffee. Cold plunge and coffee. I think that's what it's called. I can't remember exactly the name. But wake up and take cold showers. Cold showers are obviously things that you do not want to do. They are painful, yet they will make you a tougher man, and it will get you in the habit of doing things that you do not want to do. And believe me, there are going to be plenty of things in your life that you do not want to do. So if you've already trained yourself to figure out how to get through them, you'll be able to get through those harder things in the future easier. All right. Number 8, 10,000 steps a day. All right. Make this a habit, and you can actually just track it. You can buy a fairly affordable watch. You can track them right on your phone. Do this either in the morning when you wake up, or even when you come home from work at night. All right, 10,000 steps a day. Number 9, nightly wins list. This is something that I used to do. Every night, I had a PDF, and it was electronic at first, and then I actually made it handwritten, but I would write down 3 wins that I experienced that night. All it did was it reinforced that I was doing good things in my life. I had good things in my life, and it allowed me to go to bed feeling a little bit happier. All right. Number 10, take a public speaking course. All right, public speaking is some of the biggest fears that a lot of people have. Similar things, right? You can see a trend with doing some of the things that you really don't want to do. You end up training yourself and conditioning yourself to do hard things. All right, take a public speaking course in your local community or town hall. All right, number 11, learn a new language. My sister actually, I believe she, over the last couple of months or years, she's been teaching herself Spanish just through an app. All right, it trains your brain, and it also teaches you how to obviously speak a new language, which is pretty cool. So you can go to that place in the world and speak their native tongue. That's kind of awesome. All right, number 12, recreational sports. This is a great way for guys, and I made a video about this a couple days ago. If you're 18 to 26 years old, and all your buddies went away to college, and you decided to go into a trade or take a couple years off or start a business, you might feel alone a little bit, right? Because all your buddies like kind of went to college or started to do their own thing. I think in the I can't remember what Mel Robbins talks about it, but it's like the great separation, like after high school, where like everybody just kind of goes their own separate ways. And so joining a recreational sports team or a sports league is an awesome way to start to develop some friendships and get some camaraderie back into your life. I'm personally a part of a lot of run clubs here, and I mentioned the cold plunge thing. I have a lot of great community or recreational activities that I get to go to, and I've built some awesome friendships in that. So I would highly recommend making recreational sports a big priority. All right, number 13, take an art class. This is so cool. Art is a huge, huge piece of my life. I was a graphic designer for many years. My grandma was a professional artist. Art is probably one of the most important things in my life because it unlocks a lot of creativity, lets you be imaginative. There are no rules with art. I saw this awesome quote once that said, "Art is never finished, it is just abandoned." All right, great thing to make a priority on a weekly basis. Number 14, give yourself a weekly challenge. All right, this is really cool. This is a lot of kind of what we do in our habit program with guys. It's a 12-week program. We track 4 habits over those 12 weeks, 3 core habits of reading, exercise, and sleep. 4th habit, which is a growth habit, which is unique to each guy's personal and professional goals. Each week, we essentially are giving ourselves a weekly challenge. Each guy has to complete that weekly challenge and then come back to our group meeting each week and report back out on how they did. You do not want to be that one guy who does not say that you completed your weekly commitment or your weekly challenge, so that accountability pushes you to follow through on your commitment. Doing this by yourself do this with a buddy of yours, right? Have a collective weekly challenge, read a book, send a text, do a certain physical feat. it's a great thing to prioritize, right? One, you build a better relationship with that person. Two, you stick to a commitment, all right? And as I've mentioned many times, when you stick to commitments over and over and over again, especially if you track those commitments using a calendar or some sort of tracking system, you end up building evidence that ends up shifting your self-image, which ends up then changing your identity, and your behavior starts to follow, all right? So try that one out. Number 14, weekly challenge. Number 15, bookstore self-improvement hour. I don't know how many more bookstores there are in the world because of Amazon, but I do know, like, I see a lot of Barnes and Nobles everywhere. I love going into libraries. I did 185 episodes, I think, of the Libraries and Weight Rooms podcast. I'm a huge advocate of libraries. I think it is a wealth of knowledge. And so I recommend going to a Barnes and Noble and just thinking about the wisdom and the knowledge that, and the years of experience and education that is in those hallowed walls of a Barnes and Noble or of a library, and just spend an hour there and just grab a book and try to learn something. Maybe do that once a week type of thing. I think that's a really cool priority. Number 16, find a mentor. This is something that I've shared many times. I've found a mentor when I was 21 years old, Scott Gibbs, who is now my business partner almost 9 years later. From age 21 to 24, we did our coaching sessions each week. At age 24, we ended up starting Acres of Diamonds, and last year I ended up starting Be That Guy. And so find a mentor, and what I wrote down is it takes some years off of, or it is a shortcut years of mistakes, right? Shortcut your years of mistakes, right? Find somebody who's already been there and have them, blaze your path a little bit easier for you. All right. So number 16, find a mentor. Number 17, learn a profitable skill. I thought of coding. I thought of communication, persuasion, or sales. Go on udemy.com. It's an online university, and they have awesome courses that are super affordable. I actually taught myself neuro-linguistic programming through Udemy, and they have tons of courses that can teach you skills that will make you money moving forward. All right. Number 18, plan routines. Have a nighttime and a morning routine. All right. This is something that I'm very passionate about. I have a nighttime routine that's super simple. I brush my teeth and I pray. All right. That's my nighttime routine. My morning routine is a little bit more. I exercise, I eat breakfast, I read, I do a little bit of meditation, I send a message into our Be That Guy club, I do some mental fitness reps, and boom, I'm out ready to roll. All right. Establish a morning and a nighttime routine. Number 19, a gratitude letter. Write somebody a letter of gratitude. All right. I've wrote my mom a letter of gratitude actually a couple years back. It was actually, I probably am due for another gratitude letter to somebody, maybe my mom. But I wrote her a letter when I was maybe like 23 or 24, thanking her for something she had helped me with when I was really struggling mentally. And I don't think she realized the impact that it had on me. And so I just wanted to allow her to know that she did have a really big impact on me, and she did really help me in a moment when I really needed her. All right. So that's something that is super important, because a lot of the times we don't tell people how big of an impact they've had on us. So write them a letter of gratitude and send it via mail. Okay. Number 20. Take a class on confidence and human behavior. All right, this could be a local class at like a community center or something, or this could be a class on udemy.com or some online university. All right, confidence, human behavior, these things are super important, because I think it's just really important to understand how we operate as humans. This is why emotional intelligence is so important. And if you're a guy and you want to find a girlfriend or a woman in the next couple of years, top 2 things that women are attracted to is confidence and emotional intelligence. All right, and so get good at those things, and you'll end up being really good at attracting people into your life and understanding why they do certain things, understanding why personally you do certain things as well. Number 21, find a new hiking route and make a vlog. All right. This is something that I see a lot of people do, whether it's like a travel vlog or it's like a hiking vlog. Go find a really cool hiking route near wherever you live, and then videotape it and upload it onto the world. Don't be afraid of what people are going to say. Everybody is going to have negative comments. Everybody's going to start hating on you because you are exposing the things that they want to do. All right. That's part of life. I have people all the time say nasty things to me on social media. And frankly, I actually think it's kind of funny, and I enjoy it. And I actually always comment back to it, because I'm just trying to help. I'm just trying to serve the world. I'm just trying to help guys who were in my position not too long ago get out of that position by tracking better habits, because that's what worked for me. All right. So go do a little hike, make a little vlog, put it up online, and enjoy yourself with it. All right. Number 22, set and track one goal. This is something that I learned from my good buddy DC Banks. He was interviewed on the podcast maybe 2 or 3 guest episodes ago. And at the end of our episode, I asked him, what are 3 things that you would recommend any 18-year-old guy do to be that guy and kind of really start taking themselves more serious? 1 was, he said, find God. 2 was, he said, work out. Make sure you make exercise a big part of your life. And the 3 was set 1 small goal a week, right? Set 1 small goal, 1 small challenge, and hit that goal each week. All right. Number 23, tell your parents what you love about them. All right. This is a really interesting one because I think sometimes as guys, we do not tell our parents that we appreciate them and that we're grateful for them. I was just actually talking to a young man a couple days ago, and he told me how appreciative he was for his mom and his dad. And I reiterated, I said, make sure you let them know that, right? Because as mothers and fathers, right, their number 1 goal is to raise good humans, right? And I think it's really important to, as men, to allow our parents to realize, like, hey, I'm glad that you're my mom and my dad. And I really appreciate the things that you did to raise me, even though there were some battles sometimes, there were some tough moments, yet there were a lot of good moments. And I just want to say thank you for that. And so find it in your heart to find those good moments and make sure that you share them with your mom and your dad. Number 24, take grandma on a date. This is something that I did all the time. Very specifically, I actually did it after my grandfather passed away. I took my mom and my grandma out on dates every couple of weeks, and we had so much fun. It was absolutely awesome. Grandma's going to love it too. All right. So make sure you take your grandma out on a date. These are memories that she will never forget. And she's also going to have you're going to have some great conversations with her, and you're definitely going to learn something from your grandma if you haven't already. And number 25, do one thing that I mentioned every 2 weeks. All right. So go back through this episode, write all of these things down, and I'll put in the, maybe in the show notes, all of the list of everything that I wrote down. And do one of these things every 2 weeks. All right. And I can guarantee you that you will completely change. Your life will have much more meaning. You're going to serve more people. And like I said, you're going to like yourself more. All right. You're going to appreciate what you see in the mirror. And that is a feeling that is hard to duplicate and something that you cannot buy at your local store. You have to earn that. And this list is a great way to start earning those. All right. Earning that feeling. All right. So take a listen back to this through these 25 priorities. Remember, as men, our priorities are going to shape our future, just like our habits are going to shape our future, okay? And anybody listening to this, whether you're a parent or a guy, I cannot change you, all right? Parents cannot change their sons. Sons cannot change their parents. Nobody can change anybody. We have to just simply allow other people to see why they might want to change. And my goal with this podcast was to simply just show you some ideas of why you might want to change and why you might want to think a little bit deeper about your priorities, okay? And I always like to end each episode with only having one ask. If you enjoyed today's episode, just give it a like, okay? You do not have to share it with anybody. You do not have to give it a review. Just give it a like if you enjoyed what we had to say today on the Be That Guy podcast. My name is DJ Ligori, and thank you so much for tuning in, and keep being that guy. We'll talk to you guys soon.